A very good morning to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us for the second hour of the program. Just want to start by saying apologies for bringing the news late. We're having some technical challenges, but we hope that they're resolved now. So our clock should be working as normal. So apologies for bringing the news late. But welcome to the second hour of the program. We are broadcasting, streaming live on the internet, channelafrica.co.za. And you can also find us on your mobile apps. Just go into your app store, look for SABC Plus, that's SABC Plus, and then look for Channel Africa and, of course, Rise and Shine. That'll set you up for your news day every weekday between 6 and 9 Central African time. And my name is Peter Ndoro. Good morning.
Asanda, Beda is here as well. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us if you've just joined us, and staying with us if that's what you've done. One of the stories we'll be looking at in this hour is 6,000 children who have been displaced and nearly 29,000 who are unable to attend school. This is in the aftermath of Cyclone Gezani, which struck eastern Madagascar on the 10th of February. So we'll be going there talking about UNICEF and what they are attempting to provide in terms of assistance there. So, and these figures also are according to UNICEF and the organization, saying that the second cyclone to hit the country in just 2 weeks has affected more than 270,000 people, and 16,000 people are reportedly to have been displaced. We'll be speaking to the country representative in Madagascar of UNICEF on that story. I think we'll be speaking about this almost every day. We've been getting updates.
Yeah, indeed. And also West Africa, Nigeria, struggling and gripped with an insecurity scenario playing out, particularly in Plateau State. Well, there, sadly, we're getting reports that at least 37 people have died following a suspected toxic gas explosion at a zinc mining site. We'll get more on that with our correspondent on the ground in Nigeria.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
Zilipendwa na Jean de la Croix.
Historia ya msikilizaji ya Valentine Day au siku ya wapendanao ilianzia katika nyakati za kale za dola la Roma. Watafiti wengi wa historia wanaamini kuwa siku hii inahusishwa na sherehe za kipagani zilizokuwa zikifanyika kila mwaka katikati ya mwezi Februari. Msikilizaji, sherehe hizo zilijulikana kama Lupercalia na zilifanyika kuadhimisha uzazi, upendo na mwanzo wa majira ya kuchipua.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati. Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
At least 38 people have died following a suspected toxic gas explosion at a zinc mining site in Company Zurek, Wase local government area of Plateau State, that's in north-central Nigeria. Several miners were rescued alive and taken to nearby hospitals for urgent treatment. The incident has raised serious concerns about safety standards and regulatory oversight in Nigeria's mining sector, particularly in rural areas where informal and semi-formal mining operations are common. So to provide us updates now from Nigeria is Channel Africa's correspondent Jonathan James Liamgong. Jonathan, good morning to you, and how are you?
Good morning, Asanda. Good, and you?
Good, thank you very much. Let's start with what you've been able to confirm so far about the incident from your sources in Plateau State.
Well, so far we've been able to confirm that the incident indeed occurred, and occurred in a village called Zurak, which is in Wase local government, which is a couple of, maybe about a little over 100 kilometers away from the Plateau State capital, Jos. And the village is very renowned for artisanal mining, just like many communities surrounding the area itself. And so far, from what we've gathered, about 37 people are said to have been confirmed dead, and they all died in the mine as they were discovered by early callers who showed up in the mine at about this time on the fateful day. And they so far as well, the cause of death has been linked to what is suspected to be poisonous gases. Some accounts have said it was carbon monoxide gases. Some others have alluded to other gases, but from the federal government statement that was released yesterday, it kind of shows that the area is notorious for sulfuric gases. But what specific type of gases that these people might have led to the death of these people is yet to be ascertained. And the federal government has said that it has launched an investigation to be led by the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Mines, who is expected in Plateau State immediately with his team. So we expect that by today that team would have arrived Plateau State to begin setting up all the measures for the investigation that is to be carried out. So far, those are about some of the things we've confirmed, Asanda.
What do we know about the company operating the mine and whether it was following safety regulations? Concerns have been raised, as we said, about safety and regulatory challenges within this sector.
So far, we've discovered one of the many things that typically plays out in that area. So the mining license itself is allocated in the name of one Abdullahi Dan China. But as at the time of the incident, we also hear about a mining company called Solid Unit Nigeria Limited. But again, this license has now, following the incident, been suspended. But part of what we learned is that following some pressure from the community, the licensee, as Abdullahi Dan China, had to cede the license operations to members of the community. And when situations like this happen, what then usually follows is there are very inexperienced operations that go on. I have been to this particular, only a couple of months ago, actually, was in this general area. And going from the airport in the state and going into the city, I could see a lot of mining activities that were artisanal mining activities that was happening that even to a non-mining professional like me, I can tell that many of these practices just looked very unorthodox and unsafe, because you find people using buckets, using their hands, and you find people also going to revisit pits that have been abandoned without knowing why those pits were abandoned, without having any environmental impact assessment, without having any reasonable information. These are people themselves who have little or no knowledge of mining, other than the fact that they know how to identify the precious mineral that they're looking for. And the commonly sought after minerals in this geologic bed include tantalite, include a couple of, the state itself is, or the city itself is most known for things like tin as well. So all of this, and then you find a lot of other involvements with Chinese mining companies as well, some of them operating illegally, some of them operating based on the third-party extension of the license.
So quite a number of factors to follow through there.
Yes.
Let's leave it there, Jonathan, because we are completely out of time. And that story, of course, will be developing, and we'll give you updates as and when it does. Channel Africa's Nigeria correspondent is Jonathan James Liamgong, bringing us the latest on this tragic mining incident in Plateau State.
Es-tu préoccupé par quelque chose? Es-tu passionné par les questions qui comptent? As-tu une voix qui mérite d'être entendue? Eh bien, nous avons la plateforme parfaite pour toi. Téléphone-nous ou fais-nous un WhatsApp au +27 66 408 87 42 et nous te rappellerons. Sois dans la conversation.
Salut Channel Africa, ici Beno le diamant rouge et Bina l'export depuis le Cameroun, le pays des lions. Voilà.
Sois dans la conversation. Il ne s'agit pas seulement de parler, mais c'est ta chance d'exprimer ton point de vue, de partager tes opinions et de t'engager avec une communauté qui valorise ton avis. Suivez-nous sur les réseaux sociaux, visitez notre site www.channelafrica.co.za et préparez-vous à partager vos points de vue sur Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
From Cape to Cairo, Dakar to Dar es Salaam, rise and shine with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda on Channel Africa.
Fighting between Congolese forces and the M23 rebels has continued in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, despite a ceasefire scheduled to take effect this Wednesday. Angola's President João Lourenço called for the ceasefire last week after holding talks with other African leaders. Chris Ochamringa has more from Kinshasa.
The clashes were reported in villages in eastern Congo's South Kivu province. Locals say government forces and the M23 rebels attacked each other's positions in the Luvungi and Pikengi areas. Both sides have accused each other of attacking first. The fighting has violated a ceasefire that Angolan President João Lourenço called last week. It has also undermined hopes of restoring peace in the conflict-torn region. Last October, the DRC government and the M23 rebels signed an agreement in Qatar to monitor a permanent ceasefire. But fighting erupted just days after the signing. Qatar and the African Union condemned the escalation and urged the warring parties to cease hostilities. The U.S. has also warned that any party violating the ceasefire will face sanctions. The M23 rebels say they are fighting to protect their community of Congolese Tutsis from attacks by a rival Hutu militia backed by the DRC government. The DRC denied the accusation and blamed Rwanda for supporting the rebels to plunder its minerals, a charge Kigali also denied. The fighting has caused a major humanitarian crisis in eastern DRC. The European Union has allocated more than $96 million in humanitarian aid to support populations affected by the conflict. The funding will provide life-saving services to vulnerable communities in eastern DRC and refugees in Burundi, Rwanda, and Tanzania. Chris Ochamringa, SABC News, Kinshasa.
Now, 6 Zimbabwean Liberation War veterans, and these are former fighters in the 1970s armed struggle that led to independence from white minority rule in 1980, have gone to the courts to challenge proposed constitutional amendments that could fundamentally reshape the country's political future. The changes were reportedly extending the presidential term from 5 to 7 years and allow future presidents to be elected by parliament instead of by direct popular vote. Now, the veterans argue that these proposals undermine constitutional safeguards and democratic principles. Joining us now is Professor Lovemore Madugu, who's the constitutional law expert and also the legal representative for the 6 veterans. A very good morning to you, Prof. Thanks so much for joining us.
Morning.
So, Prof, what is at the heart of this case? Perhaps you need to help us understand, can Parliament, as it is constituted right now, change the Constitution?
Well, I think that it's important. You've asked 2 questions in one. One is what is at the heart of this application. The other one is, can Parliament change? Parliament has limited power to change the Constitution. If they want to change the Constitution, certain changes would be required to go to a referendum, like what is now being proposed, changing the political system from a direct presidential vote to an indirect vote, things like extending the term of office of the president and a referendum. So yes, Parliament can amend, but its amendment process is limited. At the heart of the application that is in the Constitutional Court, there is not a challenge to Parliament doing so. It is a challenge to the very idea that the President can be part to a process and preside over a process where he seeks constitutional amendments which benefit him, and where he also seeks constitutional amendments which are prohibited. Under the Constitution, you cannot extend the term of office of an incumbent. Like in this case, President Mnangagwa's term cannot be extended by any amendment whatsoever.
All right, so where are we in the process now? Parliament, the ZANU-PF governing party, have they gazetted their intention already?
Yes, they've already gazetted their intention, I think on Monday, 16 February, a cabinet, which is a ZANU-PF extension center dominated by ZANU-PF and with the president, they gazetted their intentions. Under the law, they're supposed to give notice of about 90 days before Parliament starts debating. So that has happened already, that they have gazetted their proposed amendments. And this is why the war veterans have gone to court. They seek to block those proposals, not just the amendments. So they don't want the proposals to even then start being processed on the basis that the process leading to the proposal was itself contrary to the Constitution. So they have taken the president, who they are alleging has breached some of his constitutional duties in undermining those constitutional principles that are very important in our country.
So the law may be clear. Are you confident that the courts will follow the law? Because there have been questions raised about judicial independence.
I'm very confident that the courts will follow the law. The real issues here are quite straightforward, and there's no room for the judiciary to do anything other than to follow the law. We believe that they will. We have gone to the Constitutional Court, and this sort of action that has been filed will require that 7 judges of the Constitutional Court sit. When they hear the matter, it will be public. It is likely to be live streamed, so the whole world will be seeing what will be happening in court, the arguments that will be made, the judges' interventions, and so on. So in that environment, there's absolutely no room for the courts not to follow the law.
Professor, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for that update, and we look forward to catching up with you as this court action proceeds. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That was Professor Lovemore Maduku, a constitutional law expert and a legal representative of the 6 war veterans, challenging the Zimbabwean government's efforts to extend President Mnangagwa's term in office. It's 7:30 Central African time, which means it's time for your news headlines with Jwalane Tulongwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Good morning. Making headlines, management of Ikapa mine in Kimberley in South Africa's Northern Cape province says its teams is still struggling to reach its missing miners. The workers are trapped underground in a shaft which is 800 meters deep following a mud rush incident on Tuesday. Reports from Nigeria say at least 38 people have died in a suspected case of carbon monoxide poisoning at a mine in the central Plateau state, and Meta boss Mark Zuckerberg has been giving evidence in a landmark trial in Los Angeles. It relates to concerns on whether social media causes addiction among young people. I will have details on these and other stories at 8 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Let's catch you up now with what's happening in the world of sports. We say good morning to Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good morning, Asanda. We kick off with football news. Banyana have kicked off their 2026 COSAFA Women's Championship Cup campaign on a winning note at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium in South Africa's Limpopo province. After a tight first half, the hosts broke the resistance of Malawi and their scorchers in the second half. Sibulele Holweni opened the scoring before Bunono Mugoma sealed the 2-0 victory in the 90th minute. Banyana head coach Desiree Ellis says perseverance is the key to victory.
I think in the first half we struggled a bit to find each other. You must remember it's a new group of players that we're working with. So we're working on a few things and sometimes it doesn't come right. But I think the perseverance that they showed, the determination that they showed, they never really gave any opportunity, but we created a few. I think the first goal was crucial because it helped us to settle down. I think we also handled their long ball very well. They did behind us. But I must take my hat off to the players, started pre-season not so long ago to put up a performance like this and get the result in very, very hot weather that we're not used to. I think I have to commend the players and the coaching staff.
European football's governing body has launched an investigation after the Real Madrid forward Vinicius Jr. claimed he was racially abused in the Champions League match against Benfica. UEFA said it had asked an ethics and disciplinary inspector to investigate the game. The BBC's Jane Dougal has more details.
It's not the first time that Vinicius Jr. has suffered racism in this way. In fact, he seems to have been the target of quite a number of racist incidents, up to around 16 or so. Back in May 2023, he was racially abused by fans at Valencia's stadium. The Real Madrid's forward's reaction at the time, he criticised Spanish football's failure to deal with the issue, and he said that racism was normal in La Liga. La Liga have said that they have now taken action and they have now tried to clamp down upon racism.
Now, cricket news. South Africa completed the group stage of the 2026 T20 World Cup undefeated when they eased past the United Arab Emirates by 6 wickets in New Delhi on Wednesday. With their place in the Super 8 secured, the Proteas rotated Kwena Mapaka, Corbin Bosch, and Nokie into the side. The Proteas were not at their best in the field. They dropped 2 catches and started inaccurately with the ball, but ultimately the pace attack was too hot to handle as they kept UAE to 122 for 6 and powered to the target in 13.2 overs in a relatively polished performance. Now, tennis news. Indian Wells Open organizers have confirmed that Novak Djokovic is coming back to tennis paradise for the ATP Masters 1000 event. Djokovic has played only one tournament. The Grand Slam, but withdrew as he felt he was not physically ready to compete, while he also pulled out of this week's Qatar Open due to strong fatigue. Let's end with Olympics ongoing in Italy. Arianna Fontana has become Italy's most decorated Olympian after leading her team to silver in the women's 3,000-meter short track relay at the Winter Games. It was the 14th Olympic medal for her career, surpassing fencer Edoardo Mangiaroti's long-standing record of 13. South Korea claimed gold and Canada bronze, while Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni was in the arena to witness Fontana's historic achievement. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fire Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Many thanks to Figile Lingwati, who'll be back at the top of the hour with the sports headlines. And coming up shortly, the business news with Nosipo Zuma. But I'm going to take you back in history now, 1978. And this affair was called the Larnaca Airport Raid. Now, following the assassination of prominent Egyptian editor Yusuf al-Sabai by Palestinian gunmen in Cyprus, Egyptian commandos launched an unauthorized raid on Larnaca International Airport to rescue hostages. Now, this mission turned into a disaster when Cypriot forces engaged the Egyptians, leading to a 45-minute gun battle that killed 15 Egyptian commandos and caused a diplomatic break between the two nations for several years. That was February the 19th, 1978. Coming up, the business news. Stay with us.
60 years of stories and sounds. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
And it's time to find out what's happening in the world of business, commerce, economics. And at the desk this morning, good morning to you, Nosipo Zuma.
Business news on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. It's good to hear your voice. In your business news this hour, the International Monetary Fund says Gabon has not yet submitted a formal request for a financing program. Now, the IMF is due to go on a staff visit to Gabon on Monday next week, where recent economic developments in the country and its reform priorities will be discussed. The fund says Gabonese authorities have announced their intentions to work towards an IMF-supported program, but that they have not yet received a formal request. South African ferrochrome plant Lion Smelter has resumed operations following a 9-month shutdown after a 1/3 cut in power costs. Now, this after more than a dozen smelters have been forced to shut down in recent years in South Africa, the world's biggest producer of chrome ore or chromite, leading to thousands of job losses. The closures have been blamed on high electricity costs, which have surged by more than 900% since 2008. Job seekers in South Africa's Eastern Cape province have called on the provincial government to step up its efforts in availing employment opportunities in the province. The recent unemployment rate now sits at 42%, with over 30,000 jobs lost in the previous quarter. Now, this has led to some job seekers considering to relocate to other provinces to look for opportunities. One affected unemployed graduate, Madlakazi Jabe, who has been unemployed since 2016, says this has had a negative impact on her and her family.
It's been very difficult, a lot. It's suffocating. It's giving you, like, you are being depressed, I must say, because you go to school hoping that you might be a breadwinner one day for your family. Okay, we are 3 of us, and I was the only one who graduated. So I thought maybe I will be able to support my family.
Meanwhile, economic analyst Professor Willie Chinyamurindi from South Africa's University of Fort Hare says economic growth is a solution out of this employment crisis.
It's a dire situation. It seems like we've been here before, and I think what's sad about the situation is we are part of the 2 worst performing provinces in the country at the moment. I think the answer is growth. The economy of the province must grow. We must find ways, creative ways of making sure that whatever projects we have in the province that are meant to provide employment, they are doing what they're supposed to do. And I'm talking about catalytic projects, big projects that solve our challenge.
And finally, the British Office for National Statistics says the country's inflation has fallen to its lowest level since March last year. This has added to expectations of an interest rate cut soon by the Bank of England, even as a measure of underlying price pressures remains strong. Consumer prices rose by 3% in annual terms in January, slowing sharply from a 3.4% increase in December as transport, food and non-alcoholic drink private prices increased less quickly. Analysts say they now expect a further rate cut later this year as inflation lowers and unemployment continues to climb gradually. Your financial indicators: $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 349, and Botswana is 13.03. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 08, and in Zambia it's 18 kwacha 41. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 22. Russia is 76 rubles 57. India is 90 rupees 69. China at 6 yuan 90, and in South Africa $1 is trading at 16 rand 02. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,971 and platinum at $2,077 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $70.50 a barrel. Now, for any stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nosipho Zuma.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Wake up, Africa. Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda are here to help you rise and shine. Weekdays, 6 till 9 a.m. Central African Time. Only on Channel Africa.
7:42 Central Africa time is your time, in case you're watching. And let's take a look at this story now. Africa's most industrialized economy is entering a new monetary phase. South Africa's interest rates are beginning to ease as inflation remains within the South Africa Reserve Bank's target range. But whilst lower rates may offer relief to households and businesses, economists say that the bigger question is how policymakers and business leaders respond in a fragile global environment marked by energy costs, currency volatility, and renewed inflation risks. As one of the continent's key financial anchors, South Africa's policy direction has implications not only domestically, but for investor sentiment and economic confidence across Africa. Channel Africa's economics reporter is Innocent Simosa.
South Africa's monetary policy cycle has reached a critical juncture, with the repo rate now at 6.75% and inflation hovering near the lower end of the South African Reserve Bank's target range. Lesetja Kganyago is the governor of the South African Reserve Bank.
We had been doing work for the past 24 to 36 months, and we came to the conclusion that the correct target to aim for South Africa is 3%. We believe that 3% will be consistent with the price stability mandate. Secondly, we believe that it will enhance South Africa's competitiveness. And thirdly, we believe that it will transform the South African economy.
The question is, does this latest data genuinely justify further cuts? And what specific factors could prompt the SARB to pause the easing cycle? Danny Duffling-Kruger, head of business development at More Infinity, shares his thoughts.
The SARB's neutral rate, the level at which policy is neither stimulating nor restricting the economy, is estimated at around 7 to 7.5%. We're actually currently below that level. So in other words, policy is already mildly accommodative. The bank has room to move, but the pace will be shaped almost entirely by whether the rand holds and whether the domestic cost pressures behave. Governor Kganyago has been clear. The destination is 3% inflation, and he expects to reach this only by 2028.
Duffling-Kruger highlighted domestic inflation risks, such as administered prices and electricity tariffs. Where does this leave us?
Growth is tracking at 1.4% in 2026. That's a disinflationary story. The rand is performing, and foreign appetite for South African assets is returning. But the cost environment on the ground, driven by electricity and administered prices, remain a genuine headwind, and the cutting cycle shall be shallower than many are hoping. The message is this: we are on a stable, measured path. Investors and business leaders can expect a thoughtful, data-driven approach from the SARB, not sudden moves in either direction. So the opportunity in 2026 lies in planning for this environment with clarity and not waiting for a more accommodative one to arrive.
Meanwhile, inflation for December edged up to 3.6%. Senior economist at First National Bank, Koketso Mano, shares her outlook for 2026.
We had anticipated inflation to lift, right, into the later part of that year. And even with that, we were surprised to the downside most of the time last year. So I guess inflation really is contained. And then going into this year, we actually see inflation being even softer, right? So it fell from 4.4% in 2024 to 3.2% last year, and we see it maybe even being around 3.13% this year. So I think it's still good. It still speaks well to, the inflation trajectory, as well as the ability for monetary policy to continue easing.
For Channel Africa News, I'm Innocent Simosa in Johannesburg, South Africa.
7:45 Central African time it is. We take a look at this story now. Former African Union chairperson Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma says stronger African integration, free movement across borders, and mineral beneficiation are key to shared prosperity. Speaking to Channel Africa, Dr. Dlamini-Zuma, now chairperson of the Advisory Council of the Africa Prosperity Network, a non-governmental organization advocating for a borderless Africa under Agenda 2063, urged governments, business, media and citizens to implement continental commitments to drive inclusive growth across the continent. Channel Africa spoke with Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma.
The idea is we're Africans, and as Africans, we should be mobile within Africa, and we should have free movement within Africa. So the borders that were drawn must not divide us. But let me give you an example of what happens if Africans work together. You remember the Ebola. During Ebola, we were told at the UN by President Obama in one of the side meetings that if nothing drastic happens, 1.4 million Africans are going to die. And what happened? The AU, business and member states, we all work together. One, we asked business to give us money. We asked Africans to donate their time to go and work in those countries. And we got more than 800 health workers from across the continent, different countries, went there. The African business people gave us money to look after them there, whilst the countries paid their salaries at home. And we were able to eradicate Ebola, and less than 100,000 people died. And that was even less than the people who died from COVID in South Africa alone. It was from those three countries, it was less. Why? Because we all came together as Africans and said we must deal with this. Business, health workers, governments, the AU, everyone came together. So if we come together, we can do big things. Our economy can be indeed a huge economy that will create prosperity for all on the continent, and there will be no poor African. We can beneficiate our minerals, which we have plenty, not only the rare minerals, all minerals we can find here. And if we beneficiate them here, it means we create jobs here. It means we retain revenue here, and that revenue we use to deliver services to Africans, to create jobs, to do the skills revolution for young people. And we can be a great continent. The Africa we want is an Africa that reverses the present Africa. The present Africa is a rich Africa with poor Africans. We want an Africa where there are no poor Africans.
Talking about mineral beneficiation, that was one of the priorities at the recent G20 that was successfully hosted by South Africa along with the AU as permanent members. In your course, what are some of the identified barriers that are like hindering this African integration you championing?
I think it's just non-implementation of our own decisions. Even if we didn't decide anything new and we implemented everything we've decided, we will get there. But we must implement. But part of the barriers is us, citizens, because we've detached ourselves from these decisions. And therefore, if government doesn't implement, everything is quiet. Whereas if citizens, as Agenda 2063 says, that this Africa we want must be driven by its people. So we are at fault as citizens. So every individual has a role to play in making sure that this happens. The media, of course, have got a bigger role to play because they've got a voice that reaches further than any of us. But everyone has a responsibility.
And have you taken this agenda also inside the Nelson Mandela plenary?
They haven't given us the platform, but we will demand it at some stage. But for now, we want the 10 million signatures from Africans so that they can see we're not speaking for ourselves, we're speaking for Africans. And if we get the 10 million signatures, it will show that it's Africans who want this, who are speaking on their behalf. We're not just speaking on our own behalves.
That was Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma speaking with Channel Africa's Michael Mbewe.
Zilipendwa na Abedi Jean de la Croix.
Historia msikilizaji ya Valentine Day au siku ya wapendanao ilianzia katika nyakati za kale za dola la Roma. Watafiti wengi wa historia wanaamini kuwa siku hii inahusishwa na sherehe za kipagani zilizokuwa zikifanyika kila mwaka katikati ya mwezi Februari. Msikilizaji, sherehe hizo zilijulikana kama Lupercalia na zilifanyika kuadhimisha uzazi, upendo na mwanzo wa majira ya kuchipua.
Zilipendwa kila Jumamosi kuanzia saa 12 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati hadi saa 1 kamili majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
At least 6,000 children have been displaced and nearly 29,000 are unable to attend school in the aftermath of Cyclone Gezani, which struck eastern Madagascar on 10 February, with winds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. This is according to UNICEF. The organization says the second cyclone to hit the country in just 2 weeks. Gezani has affected more than 270,000 people and displaced over 16,000, according to preliminary reports, many of them children. UNICEF country representative in Madagascar, Christine Jolme, is on the line to discuss this further. Christine, good morning to you and thank you for making time.
Good morning.
So, according to your figures as UNICEF, I know we say they're preliminary, but how much of an impact have you seen Cyclone Gezani having in eastern Madagascar?
So I was in Tomasina, the city that was hit by the cyclone just 2 days after the landfall, and I must say that the destruction is very visible and very shocking as well. You see a lot of families that have lost their homes and are just living in the open with remainings of the house lying around them, you know, and as well a lot of roofs that have gone. Many infrastructures are destroyed as well, schools of course, and health centers. So it's really quite overwhelming to see the impact of the cyclone. Especially wanted to mention that it's rare that it's coming on such a large city. Tomasina is the second city in Madagascar, and therefore I think the disruption of services is even more problematic because it will take a lot of time to repair all those damages.
Besides that city you mentioned, which are the other areas that were hardest hit in eastern Madagascar?
So as I said, the main point of the landfall is the city itself, Tomasina, which is the second largest city in Madagascar and also the main port. So it's a very important place in terms of the commercial hub, and of course it went much beyond as well because the wind was so strong. So the surroundings as well have been also getting the impact as well. There are some flooding, but the most damaging part was the wind. With the destruction, a lot of homes, are made in simple metal sheet and mud, and all these homes were totally destroyed. And that's not just in the main city, but also, of course, much larger area.
So we know that some children are unable to attend school in this aftermath of Cyclone Gezani, but what are the other ways that children have been affected?
Yeah, so as you said, we estimate that close to 30,000 children are not able to attend school. But of course, children are affected in many ways. First of all, I want to say how stressful and traumatic it is for a child to lose their home, and how difficult the situation is. Children are displaced with their family in the shelters where promiscuity is very present. Children are therefore exposed to risk of violence and exploitation and so on and so forth. So that's also quite difficult for the child. But of course, the disruption of services as well. There was a lot of people injured, and health services were not able to respond because they were themselves disrupted by the cyclone. Of course, the water and sanitation is another main concern because as you know, when people do not have safe water, then children can catch very strong disease and be further affected. So all those factors, it's not just one thing, but just all the factors that come together that are affecting the child.
Yes. Your figures show 270,000 people have been displaced generally or affected by Gezani. Do you expect this figure to rise, and at what sort of intervals will you be checking in and making more assessments on the effects of Gezani?
So I think the assessment has been more or less completed by now. I hope the figure is not going to rise further. This place were 16,000. I think some people might already try to rebuild their own house. But overall, what I think is more concerning is also the fact that it will take long for reconstruction and recovery. So those big numbers of people affected is not going to decline quickly. What I'm trying to say is that they will be affected for a longer period because of the lack of infrastructures, lack of water, and all those things that will not, be quickly available, or at least not completely well repaired, in a short time.
Right, and I mean, it's not going to be a short time that things come back to normalcy, but what are your predictions then in terms of when things can at least come back to functional level in your collaboration with the government, and how you are assisting the government to respond to this impact of Gezani?
Yeah, so there are some really big mobilization, I must say. The government is really leading the response as well. UNICEF is coordinating with the government and with partners. We are actually coordinating in different sectors such as water and sanitation and hygiene, education, protection. So that aspect is very important, the coordination of all the aid that is coming. But also, I must say that immediate things can be done. Like I just saw pictures of young people, for example, cleaning schools. We have called for volunteers. Wonderful to see that, that mobilization of volunteers. And we can put, plastic sheet on the roof so school can restart as soon as possible. I hope even by next week. Some schools will certainly be able to restart. We can also put tents, like at the hospital, we already put some tents so that there is another option. But of course, these things are for immediate. But in the long term, you don't want to have the school in a tent or the hospital in a tent. So then I think for the full recovery, I would say it will take
they are coping, UNICEF collaborating with the government of Madagascar to ensure that humanitarian needs are met. Thank you so much, Christine. We'll leave it there. We appreciate your update on this matter.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
A pleasure. That was UNICEF country representative in Madagascar, Christine Jolme. Thanks, giving us our update then in terms of how they are coping. UNICEF collaborating with the government of Madagascar to ensure that humanitarian needs are met, and the support that's required is given there, especially with children who have been affected.
It's now time for the third hour of Rise and Shine, and you're listening to the show with Peter Ndoro and Asanda Beda. So much to look forward to. We'll give you details shortly, but first let's begin the hour with the news with Jalani Tulongwepe. It's 8 o'clock.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. The Minerals Council of South Africa has deployed a team to Ekapa mine in Kimberley in the Northern Cape province to support the company's efforts to rescue 5 of its workers. The workers are trapped underground following a mud rush incident on Tuesday. The council says in a statement that the deployed team will focus on offering support to Ekapa management and the families of the missing miners. Management says its team is still struggling to reach the miners in the shaft, which is some 800 meters deep. Reports from Nigeria say at least 38 people have died in a suspected case of carbon monoxide poisoning at a mine in the Central Plateau state. 27 others have been hospitalized, some in a critical condition. The BBC's Richard Cargo has the story.
Eyewitnesses describe scenes of chaos at the informal mining site as workers rushed to pull survivors from the shafts. They say several miners collapsed inside the tunnels as others scrambled to rescue their colleagues and carry the injured to safety. Preliminary findings suggest the victims died after inhaling carbon monoxide. It's still unclear how many people were underground at the time, but one miner nearby said the shafts were crowded when what they believed was a gas explosion occurred on Wednesday morning. Police have now sealed off the site in Wasay local government area as investigations continue into the cause of the suspected leak.
Recent reports allege that the Zimbabwean government may be targeting diaspora critics through a hit list of activists, journalists and opposition figures, particularly in South Africa and the UK. Those included in the hit list are Hopewell Chinono, Job Sikala and Tinashe Jonasi, among others. However, ZANU-PF Director for Information and Publicity, Farai Marapira, denied the allegations.
We are a law-abiding party. We have no time to be making such nefarious plans against anyone. These are just the rantings of opposition figures seeking relevance, and why would we want to be doing something so extrajudicial as that? If you have noticed, when these allegations are made, names are never presented. We fought for the liberation of this country so that people could speak their minds freely, and we've upheld this, and we do not have any reason to be intimidating anyone or threatening anyone.
The United Nations says it's deeply alarmed by the growing use of drones to target populated areas by both sides in Sudan's civil war. This comes after a recent attack in the town of Al Sunut in West Kordofan, where civilians were killed and injured. The UN's humanitarian coordinator says recent drone attacks have hit civilian infrastructure, causing casualties and further worsening the humanitarian crisis. And finally, Meta boss Mark Zuckerberg has been giving evidence in a landmark trial in Los Angeles. It relates to concerns on whether social media causes addiction among young people. The multi-billionaire, whose firm owns Instagram and Facebook, stopped short of using the word addiction, but Zuckerberg is facing widespread criticism and says he regrets Meta's slow progress in identifying underage users. The BBC's Peter Bowes reports.
The case, one of more than 1,000 waiting to be heard, was brought by a 20-year-old woman along with her mother because they claim her obsessive use of platforms like Instagram and YouTube from the age of 6 exposed her to harmful content. When he was shown internal Meta emails from a decade ago referring to specific goals, including time spent increases by 12%, Mr. Zuckerberg said the company used to give time as goals, but he added, that's not how we run the company now.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Cholani Tulo Wepe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, Faith Chirono confirms the entry for the Absa Ranyo City in Gqeberha 10 km. Banyana Banyana kicked off their COSAFA Champions campaign with victory. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
From Africa's broadcast capital to the furthest corners of the globe, this is Rise and Shine, every weekday mornings on Channel Africa.
It is now the third and final hour of Rise and Shine, our time being just a little shy of 5 minutes past 8 Central African. And we're broadcasting live from our Johannesburg studios in South Africa from the African perspective, bringing you news and current affairs in and around our continent. And one of the stories we'll be looking at is Zimbabwe. We'll go back there. But this time talking about traditional leaders who are at the forefront of restoring the Miombo woodlands, and this being crucial for rural livelihoods and biodiversity. The Food and Agricultural Organization lends its voice to this one, as they've trained chiefs, headmen and village heads in terms of how to be more sustainable when it comes to forest management and other issues there that pertain to that particular area of things. It's also agriculture. I can see you nodding. You're probably going, yes, yes, yes. I know you want to continue talking on that one.
I agree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to look outside. And what do you see?
I see the sky. I see some
What is
trees.
the predominant color that you see?
Blue, light blue.
That's the sky. And then on the ground?
Green.
Yes.
A dark green.
And that's a wonderful, wonderful thing, because we have urban jungles in Africa that you will not see in Europe anywhere.
Yeah.
So much green, so many trees. It is such a plus for us, and something that we pay attention to. We don't often.
Yeah.
And so there you go. I'm just giving you a thought there to ponder on.
Lovely thought.
So I'm going to be looking at something called the African Medicines Council Authority, and I wonder if you know that they're working hard to make sure that the drugs that you're buying at the pharmacy, at the shops, are safe or not safe. We'll find out exactly what powers they have and what they're doing across the continent to keep us safer. Should we be feeling safer? We'll find out in a few moments.
We're coming to you on channelafrica.co.za, on the SABC Plus app via mobile phones, as well as on DSTV Audio 802.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week. Channel Africa is evolving, and so are you. Stay connected wherever you are with our brand new website and mobile app. Stream your favorite shows, catch up on African news, culture, and conversations, all at your fingertips.
Africa is just a tap away. Your world, your stories, now on the go. Stay connected wherever you are.
Visit channelafrica.co.za or download the Channel Africa app today. Channel Africa, the African perspective. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
Across Africa, access to safer and effective medicines remains a critical challenge. The African Medicines Agency, established to strengthen the regulation of medical products and protect public health, has so far been ratified by only 31 of the 55 African Union member states. Efforts are now underway to secure universal ratification, fully operationalize the agency, achieve the WHO-listed authority status, and also ensure sustainable funding. Well, joining us from London this morning to explain these developments and outline the path forward is Dr. Delise Mimi Darko, who's the Director General of the AMA. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, let's begin with perhaps your reason for being. Each country does have a national body, a national authority that oversees the dispensing and the keeping, I guess, consumers safe in terms of drugs. Where do you come in?
Thank you very much. So the African Medicines Agency is a continental regulatory body. The only one that exists like us is the European Medicines Agency. And the idea is that although every country has a national regulatory authority, AMA's role is to coordinate all the regulatory listings of products, giving Africa a stronger voice. The idea is that AMA is not here to replace any national agency. Actually, it is here to strengthen and coordinate regulation across the continent to ensure that in a case of emergency, or even in the case of our priority diseases, we have fast access to safe, quality, and efficacious medicine. So AMA will come to bring all the continental bodies together and ensure that we can do one assessment, not 55, one decision, not 55, one standard, and ensure that medicines go out to the patients.
Channel Africa is evolving
and can be monitored in a safe way. So that is what AMA's role is.
Once a country
60 years of story.
This AMA Act,
60 years
what are they obligated to do?
Okay, so once the country ratifies the AMA treaty, they are not obligated, using the word obligated, to do anything. They are just meant to obey or to go according to the treaty provisions. That means that they will, when a universal decision is made, when an approval or recommendation is made, countries will accept this approval. Countries are also supposed to provide seed funding to AMA to ensure that AMA's financial sustainability is strong. So those are some of the things that countries will have to do to ensure that they can give AMA the necessary funding to be able to be sustainable. And also, when decisions are made at the continental level, countries will take these decisions very quickly and translate them into approvals to ensure that the medicines are provided in a safe and efficacious manner. So looking at it, those are the two main acts that countries have to take. And then to participate in all AMA activities, continental safety monitoring, provide data that AMA can generate, can review and throw out the important regulatory decisions that come out of those data, and then they can use it. So those are the main things that countries have to do once they ratify the treaty.
So countries across the continent are differently capacitated and have different resources available. I wonder how, as the AMA, can you work with them to make sure nobody's left behind in setting minimum standards?
Yes, so the AMA's main objective is to enhance the capacity of its member states, or its state parties. Now, yes, we know that capacity is uneven across the continent. That is why the AMA will ensure that countries have the right capacity, ensure that sometimes it is because there are so many varying standards across the continent. So we'll ensure that there's one universal standard, harmonized standards that countries can use. So while we are looking at harmonized standards, we're looking at building the capacity so that when harmonized standards that countries can use, and it is not even a centralized decision, countries are making those decisions based on one common standard, one guideline, one approval standard, and it is not different standards.
South Africa.
In doing so, decisions are made faster, access is given faster, medicines are approved faster, and get quicker faster to the patient. So that is what AMA's main objective is to ensure that the disparity in standards are brought closer. At the end of the day, it may not be that every country will have the same standard, but at the same capacity. But stronger countries will support weaker countries, and we will all be working with the same standard to ensure that medicines that these countries are not reaching them in an inequitable manner, are not reaching them through weak reviews, but are reaching them with harmonized standards, replacing duplication, and generally raising the bar continent-wide. So that is what AMA will do, build capacity. One of the first things that we're going to do.
So substandard.
Sile South Africa ngelesithathu lochan siyanamukele emthonjeni womhatsho ikwekwezi FM lapho khona sitsheje ukuphila kuhle ngokomkhumbulo. Sirakela phambili nokudinga inyanga.
And remove these dangerous products from circulation.
Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2, substandard testing 1, 2. One of the first things AMA is going to do, apart from building capacity, because to be able to even detect the substandard of outside medicine, you need the countries need the capacity to do that. The second thing that AMA is doing is that we are building a continental database for quality monitoring. Now, what is going to do is happen is that when countries any threat or any country see any quality of issues in their country, they can report into this database. All the information will be put there. We also have on the continent, actually, what we call network of accredited laboratories. And we have one in almost every region. So these laboratories are going to be enhanced, the capacity of the laboratories, to be able to test these products when they are detected. And all this information will be put into the one continental quality asset database. Now, once this data is mined, it is easy to put out information continent-wide. countries can also have access into this database.
Testing 1 2 1 2. Okay, let me go to another one. 1 2 1 2.
Then it allows them to look.
Go to another one. 1 2 1 2 1 1 1 1 1 1. Okay, the last one. Testing 1 2. Okay. Nice.
So the countries can take the necessary regulatory action. So the common database is very important for us. It allows countries to be confident, to know that this is somewhere where they can access data on assets. And capacity strengthening will also ensure that countries are able to detect these faster and will have the services of the laboratories on the continent. Not every country has a laboratory, but the network of qualified laboratories can be used for countries that don't have these labs in place. Thank you.
You've spoken about achieving WHO listed authority status. In practical terms, what would that recognition mean for African regulators and for the continent's global credibility?
WHO listed status, it signals that a regulator meets globally recognized standards of maturity and of performance. Those two are key. Now, for Africa, we have 9 countries that are what we call WHO maturity level 3. A WHO listed authority will strengthen our capacity, our credibility, and reduce our dependence on external approval. It also would support local manufacturing. That is one of the things that AMA is looking at supporting. We don't want a situation where, when COVID came and the borders were shut, Africa didn't have the needed medicine. So basically, the WHO listed authority status will give us the credibility, will give countries the credibility that they need, will strengthen their capacity, will ensure that we are not waiting for another country to make a decision. The decisions that we make will be of the same credibility as Europe, US, FDA, EMA, or any other strong reference agency will make. And the WHO ensures that these are done according to specific benchmarks, specific tools that they use. And once we assess African countries, including the AMA, I think that it will strengthen our credibility on the approvals that we need. And very soon we will be able to make decisions for ourselves without relying on external or waiting for decisions from other jurisdictions. Thank you.
And perhaps finally, if we look ahead to maybe 2030, what would success look like? How will Africans know that the AMA has genuinely transformed medicine regulation across the continent?
2030, looking to 2030, AMA will be predominantly self-sustaining, and AMA will be able to make decisions fully for the continent. We are looking at a point where AMA can actually gradually replace WHO pre-qualification. So WHO pre-qualification is a commercial tool, a tool that funders or commercial partners use to assure the quality of medicines that they make available to the continent. And what we are looking at is that by 2030, AMA can gradually replace this mechanism that is in place. And therefore, commercial partners that would supply vaccines and the needed medicines to Africa will be able to rely on an AMA approval, on an AMA recommendation to be able to make these medicines available. For me, I think that will be faster because the continent cannot wait or be queued for a decision from an external partner. We know the threat that we have, and if we can make these, be trusted to make these decisions to provide medicines that are the right quality to patients on the continent, and I think this is one step down the role that WHO pre-qualification takes. So I think that by 2030, AMA would be the strategic partner to funding partners like Gavi, and to ensure that the vaccines that Africa needs are the right quality, and we have made the right review decisions, and they would be assured of the quality of the medicines that they would procure for the African continent. And this is not just procuring. For me, it is subsequently monitoring the quality and the safety of these medicines to ensure that they remain, the integrity of what we do remains. Sometimes we think that making medicines available is the end of it all. But for me, the most important thing is ensuring that these medicines continue to remain safe, continue to remain the right policy. And that is where I think we want to look at by 2030. We will be predominantly self-sustaining and predominantly the continental bodies to make access to patients, the right choice access to patients.
Dr. Darko, we're going to have to leave it there, but we certainly wish you the best, the AMA, because if you get it right, then all of us will benefit. So thank you so much indeed for the work that you're doing, and we wish you Godspeed.
Thank you very much for having me, and we will make sure that we deliver at the continent for the continent. Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Delise Mimi Darko, Director General of the African Medicines Agency, speaking to us about the push for full ratification of the AMA Treaty and what it could mean for the safety of and quality and sovereignty of medicines across Africa. Great initiative. Let's just hope that it...
bafuna ukukhalaza, bafuna ukuthumela i-complaint, siyayiphenya mahhala, bangathumela ku-email ethi complaints@nr.org.za.
Sithokozile sezonke akube imini emnandi.
Siyabonga kakhulu ku-BBM nakubalaleli beKwekwezi FM. Nihlale kahle.
Kumambala ngwezezonke wakwamajola uvela kwa National Credit Regulator. Sibawa umbiko wendlela. Khulukhulu-ke abakhamba kuthela walisa amakhamba amade bathwele umthwalo uthwele uchingisaphi kunjani lakho.
As Africa renews, so does its voices. 60 years of Channel Africa.
Drivers of Scholar Transport vehicles carry a special duty of care. The lives entrusted to you demand professionalism, discipline, and unwavering responsibility. Every Scholar Transport driver must therefore comply with the following requirements. Dress appropriately, white shirt and black trousers, and maintain a neat, professional appearance at all times. No loud music during the beginning and the end of the journey is allowed. Every journey is a responsibility. Every child's life matters. Issued by the Department of Transport.
Good morning starts here. Rise and shine on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Former Tanzanian President Jakaya Kikwete says the AU plan on water and sanitation will go a long way in addressing the challenges of water in different countries. Former President Kikwete spoke to SABC News specialist correspondent Sophie Mukwena on the sidelines of the AU summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Together a team of experts, both from the continent, from outside, global team that came up with a design of the Africa Water Investment Program. And for us, in the Global Partnership for Water Partnership for Southern Africa, we are the ones who oversee this. And I'm the chairman of the board of that. So we worked hard until we concluded the Africa Water Investment Program. After we concluded it, we brought it here. And the the heads of the IU endorsed that program. Yes, so it is that's why I call it the AU Africa Water Investment Program. They say AUIP Water Investment Program. So that's it. And then it is created a leadership structure. There are 3 co-chairs. 2 of them African heads of state. Yes, we have now we had President Hagenko, we had President Macky Sall. Now we have Nandi Ndaitwa, and we have Bassirou, the president of Senegal. And then we had a co-chair from the Global North. We've been working with the Netherlands. The Prime Minister of Netherlands is part of this team. It's part team of the. But also there are heads of state, government representing the regions. The African Union has 5 geographical regions. We have North Africa, and the King of Morocco has been part of that, a member of that. And then we have the West Africa, yes, and Gambia is representing. The president of Gambia is part of that. And then we have the Central Africa region. President Tshisekedi is member of that high-level panel. And then we have Southern Africa. President Ramaphosa is a member of that panel. We have Eastern Africa, where we have we had President Kenyatta first. After he left, President Ruto has taken over. But at that time, we only had male presidents. Then I remember in the discussion, I think it was the Prime Minister of the Netherlands said, no.
Which male dominate?
Yes, we have to. That's why I brought in. For Eastern Africa now, they have two. There is President Samia. Yes. So this is the leadership of the Africa Water Investment, international high-level panel on the Africa Water Investment. So we have had the experts are continuing to do work. As we said, there's been the first work has been presented on the possibilities of raising the 30 billion gap, which was presented at the UN summit 2 years ago. Yes, and then of course we launched a special campaign. Yes, it's a sort of a campaign on water, which we are continuing to mobilize resources. So the meeting in South Africa in August was part of that campaign to raise resources, and it went very well. It went very well, as I said. You know, we had a commitment of 10 to 15 to 12 billion dollars committed. Yes, and there were 80 projects that were presented. Yes, and with 38 African countries had presented projects. So this in a nutshell is what is really going on. But to keep it all, you know, the Global Water Partnership organization, which has been based in Sweden since inception, it's now moving to Namibia. Now the Global South and one of our own, Namibia, is going to host that.
That was former President Kikwete, former President of Tanzania, that is, speaking to the South African Broadcasting Corporation's news specialist correspondent, Sophie Mukwena. And that conversation took place on the sidelines of the African Union Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
So, you talked about, earlier on, we talked about these urban jungles. Did you know that the Congo Basin rainforest is the second largest rainforest on the planet after the Amazon, and it stretches across several Central African countries? It plays a crucial role in regulating regional weather patterns and storing carbon, making it vital in the global climate system. Scientists often call it one of the planet's great environmental lungs and one of Africa's most important natural treasures. That's fantastic. You know, I often have debates with people about the existence of God and so on and so forth. And I'm always amazed that plants breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen that we need. And we breathe out carbon dioxide that the plants need. So there's perfect symbiosis between us and the plants around us, because what we find as expelled commodity, carbon dioxide, is essential for plant life's life. And they release tons of oxygen for us to enjoy, which is why we have to keep our trees across the planet and not bring them down, as we've been seeing for centuries now.
Absolutely. The beauty of nature.
Yes.
And how it works in favor of all those that live in it.
Right. So if you're out today, plant a tree. Just leave something for the planet, because you are actually saving humanity every time you put a plant in the ground. And I just love looking outside the window in Johannesburg, because we just see so many trees. And I lived in London, and I promise you, you don't get any of that.
Yeah, especially if you're in a higher level of the building, then you can get an almost bird's eye view. Great. So it's 8:30 now, Central African time. That means it's time for our news headlines. We say good morning again to Jolani Tulo Mwebe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning. Making headlines. South Africa's International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola has detailed his department's difficulties in the process of returning 4 South African men from Ukraine. The men arrived at the Johannesburg OR Tambo International Airport yesterday. Reports from Nigeria say at least 38 people have died in a suspected case of carbon monoxide poisoning at a mine in the Central Plateau state. And finally, the top commander of U.S. forces in Latin America has made a surprise visit to Venezuela. I will have details on these and other stories at 9 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African perspective.
Okay, let's catch you up with the world of sport. I'm not sure he's going to do this story, but Arsenal seem to be bottling it again. Figile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
It's said. Let me start off with athletics. Kenyan long-distance runner Faith Cherono has confirmed her participation in the Absa Run Your City in Gqeberha 10-kilometer, adding further star power to the opening leg of the popular road running series. Her entry comes shortly after world number 1 ranked 10-kilometer runner Brenda Chepchishir also confirmed she will compete in the Eastern Cape Showpiece. Event organizers Stillwater Sports have once again assembled a world-class field, leaving no stone unturned in attracting some of the continent's elite athletes. The first of the 5 legs will be staged in Gqeberha on the 1st of March, with 10,000 runners expected to line the streets of the friendly city in what is already a sold-out race. With East Africa's finest set to dictate the pace, a sub-30-minute performance is anticipated in the women's contest in what promises to be a fast and a highly competitive race. On to football news. Banyana have kicked off their 2026 COSAFA Women's Championship Cup campaign on a winning note at the old Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane, South Africa's Limpopo province. After a tight first half, the hosts broke the resistance of Malawi's Scorchers in the second half. Sibulele Holweni opened the scoring before Bunolo Mugoma sealed the 2-0 victory in the 90th minute. Banyana head coach Desiree Ellis says perseverance was the key to victory.
I think in the first half we struggled a bit to find each other. You must remember it's a new group of players that we're working with. So we're working on a few things and sometimes it doesn't come right. But I think the perseverance that they showed, the determination that they showed, they never really gave any opportunity. But we created a few. I think the first goal was crucial because it helped us to settle down. I think we also handled their long ball very well. They didn't really get behind us. But I must take my hat off to the players. Started pre-season not so long ago to put up a performance like this and get the result in very hot weather that we're not used to. I think I have to commend the players and the coaching staff.
European football's governing body UEFA has launched an investigation after the Real Madrid forward Vinicius Jr. claimed he was racially abused in the Champions League match against Benfica. UEFA said it had asked an ethics and disciplinary inspector to investigate the game. The BBC's Jane Dougal has more details.
It's not the first time that Vinicius Jr. has suffered racism in this way. In fact, he seems to have been the target of quite a number of racist incidents, up to around 16 or so. Back in May 2023, he was racially abused by fans at Valencia's stadium. The Real Madrid's forward's reaction at the time, he criticised Spanish football's failure to deal with the issue, and he said that racism was normal in La Liga. La Liga have said that they have now taken action and they have now tried to clamp down upon racism.
Finally, tennis news. Indian Wells Open organizers have confirmed that Novak Djokovic is coming back to tennis paradise for the ATP Masters 1000 event. Djokovic has played only one tournament so far this year, and that was the Australian Open at Melbourne Park, where he reached the final before losing it 4 sets against Carlos Alcaraz. He also entered the Adelaide International ahead of the hard-court Grand Slam, but withdrew as he felt he was not physically ready to compete, while he also pulled out of this week's Qatar Open due to strong fatigue. 24-time Grand Slam winner doesn't have any tournament scheduled for the final week of February, but he will be in action at the start of March, with the Sunshine Double kicking off at Indian Wells. After, the focus will switch to the clay court season, with the first event likely to be the Monte Carlo Masters. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fire Nwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
You can get in touch with us on Rise and Shine at Channel Africa 1 is our handle. That's on the various social media platforms of Facebook, of X, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, as well as YouTube. We'd love to hear your views and comments.
For 60 years, Channel Africa has connected the continent. Celebrate the journey. Celebrate the African perspective.
It's time for business news now, and Nosipo Zuma is on standby for that update.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. In your business news this hour, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has signed an order directing that oil and gas revenues owed to the government be paid directly into the Federation account and sweeping reforms aimed at boosting public finances. Now, under the law, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation keeps 30% of oil and gas profits for frontier exploration in inland basins. The presidency says those funds will now be paid into the Federation account and appropriated by the government. Still in Nigeria, the International Monetary Fund, which is the IMF, says it has approved about $91 million in funding for Niger after completing reviews of program under its Extended Credit Facility and Resilience and Sustainability Facility. The IMF says completion of the reviews would unlock about $61 million under the ECF-supported program and about $30 million under the RSF program, adding Niger's economic growth is expected to remain strong at 6.7% in 2026. South Africa's Public Works and Infrastructure Minister, Dean McPherson, says the government plans to unlock underutilized state land to drive development and create jobs. He says this is part of the reform agenda that the Government of National Unity is advancing. McPherson was speaking during the State of the Nation Address debate in Parliament yesterday.
An RFI to convert this dead asset into productive accommodation for government departments. Consider Youngsfield and Wingfield, prime underutilized defence land with the potential to create new communities while lowering maintenance costs and restoring dignity and bringing those closer to economic opportunities.
The International Monetary Fund says Gabon has not yet submitted a formal request for a financing program. The IMF is due to go on a staff visit to Gabon on Monday next week, where recent economic developments in the country and its reform priorities will be discussed. Now, the fund says Gabonese authorities have announced their intentions to work towards an IMF-supported program, but that they have not yet received a formal request. And finally, researchers say the world's main coffee-growing regions are experiencing significant additional days of harmful heat every year because of climate change, threatening harvest and fueling price increase. The BBC's Sanjay Dasgupta reports.
Industry and trade figures say more than 2 billion cups of coffee are consumed every day, and coffee drinkers might just be the latest victims of climate change. An independent research group, Climate Central, says that for almost an extra 2 months every year since 2021, temperatures exceeded the ideal 30 degrees Celsius coffee growing threshold in Brazil, Vietnam, Colombia, Ethiopia, and Indonesia, which supply 75% of the world's coffee. According to the World Bank, the prices of Arabica and Robusta coffee beans almost doubled between 2023 and 2025.
Your financial indicators: one US dollar in Nigeria is trading at 1,349 and Botswana is 13.03. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling or 8, and in Zambia it's 18 kwacha 41. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5.22. Russia is 76 rubles 57. India is 90 rupees 69. China at 6 yuan 90, and in South Africa $1 is trading at 16 R1.02. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $4,971 and platinum at $2,707 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $70.50 a barrel. Now, for any stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nosipho Zuma.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. Africa, it's time to plug into the heartbeat of the continent. Tune in to Channel Africa, your go-to radio station that broadcasts in 5 different languages.
L'Afrique du Sud célèbre la journée nationale du
Kabla hujaitwa kwa jina la Double K
or more of our forests have been destroyed.
Partido Africano da Independência da Guiné.
See, Channel Africa represents every corner of this amazing land. From Lagos to Cape Town, Nairobi to Dakar, we've got you covered with the freshest news, music, and cultures. So, turn up the volume, feel the rhythm. And join the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Téléchargez l'application Channel Africa sur votre Play Store ou Apple Store afin de pouvoir suivre toutes nos émissions en direct de là où vous vous trouvez. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Channel Africa is evolving, and so are you. Stay connected wherever you are with our brand new website and mobile app. Stream your favorite shows, catch up on African news, culture, and conversations, all at your fingertips.
Africa is just a tap away.
Your world, your stories, now on the go.
Stay connected wherever you are.
Visit channelafrica.co.za or download the Channel Africa app today. Channel Africa, the African perspective. New day, new stories. Start your morning right with Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
In Zimbabwe, traditional leaders are at the forefront of restoring the Miombo woodlands, crucial for rural livelihoods and biodiversity. FAO of the Food and Agricultural Organization has trained chiefs, headmen, and village heads in sustainable forest management, community accountability, and protection from sexual exploitation and abuse. We now speak to Renee Chudek, FAO Senior Forestry Officer for Southern Africa, about how these workshops are shaping local leadership, community trust, and cross-border conservation efforts. Renee, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to all.
Can you tell us why the Food and Agricultural Organization, or FAO, sees traditional leaders as central when it comes to restoring and managing the Miombo woodlands in Zimbabwe?
Yes, thank you. Traditional leaders are really central because they are the custodians of land and natural resources in rural communities. So in districts like Mudzi and Rushinga in Zimbabwe, they really influence how forests are used and protected. So by empowering them, we strengthen local ownership, we improve compliance with sustainable practices, and ensure that Miombo restoration efforts are really community-driven and long-lasting, which is important.
So how do you strike the balance then between combining scientific approaches, which will be needed, I guess, if it comes to conservation, with the local indigenous knowledge that
forest
traditional leaders
inventories,
bring to these workshops,
fire management techniques, etc. with indigenous knowledge shared by the traditional leaders, so that customary rules and seasonal practices are taken into consideration, and it's really feasible to apply these scientific tools on the ground. So by integrating both systems, we ensure that forest management is really technically sound, locally relevant, and also culturally shared by the traditional leaders, so that customary rules and seasonal practices are taken into consideration, and it's really feasible to apply these scientific tools on the ground. So by integrating both systems, we ensure that forest management is really technically sound, locally relevant, and also culturally accepted.
Is there enough of that information of local and indigenous knowledge and traditional practices?
Yes, of course. The forest has been managed by these communities for years.
Hello.
The pressure on the natural resources, because of course the demographics changing.
Can you hear anything?
To now rely on these traditional customary resources, and then empower the leaders to take their mandate, and then try to empower them on the legal issues, so that they understand what are their roles and what they can do vis-a-vis of the government systems.
The workshops have also focused on establishing resource management committees. So how will these committees help strengthen accountability and build community trust?
Yes, of course. These resource management committees act really as a local oversight structures, monitoring resource use, enforcing agreed community rules, reporting violations, etc. So all these improve transparency,
Did Abungi listen to your message?
and